Hey, what's up guys? So we're back with more Star Citizen content. If you're new to and welcome, we're going to be checking out another video by the TheAstroHistorian. So shout out and credit goes to the TheAstroHistorian for the video. And this one is called Fighters and Bombers of the UEE Navy, Squadron 42 lore. Now, when I looked at some of the ships and also fighters that were described by the TheAstroHistorian and also by morphologists, like some of the ships that they review and also the fighters and bombers that they say, and they show clips of the Squadron 42 gameplay, I started going like, oh yeah, that's right. But however, I'm still not like knowledgeable in like many of the aircrafts and some of the things here and there, so it's just a little hard to say. But I'm really excited to see what the TheAstroHistorian has to say in this video. So without anything else, let's just jump right into it.
While the larger ships of the UEE Navy get most of the spotlight, the fleet can't be everywhere at once. For much
Fighters
of the history of the
important.
UEE, when the average person needed help, the first to arrive were the fighter and bomber squadrons. These smaller, easy to maintain and field ships were often the first, last, and only line of defense against everything from gangs, pirates, slavers, syndicates, and hostile alien forces. This has earned them legendary status amongst the population, and in the ranks of the UEE military, legends that still protect the UEE to this day. My name is Paul Shelley, and welcome to the TheAstroHistorian. This is a channel dedicated to exploring and explaining the lore of sci-fi and space universes and discussing their impact. Today, we'll be looking at the universe of Squadron 42 and the most glorified heroes of the UEE Navy, the fighters and bombers of humanity. First of all, I'd like to thank those who watched the first two videos
I think that's
in
the
the
Hornet.
series on the capital ships and subcap ships of the Navy. Just about every live stream and video I post, someone comes in asking for another entry in the series, and seeing as Invictus is upon us soon, I figured it'd be time to return to Squadron 42 and the UEE Navy. Note that anything I don't cover in this video will be in the last of this series on the more miscellaneous and smaller support ships. So if you didn't hear about a ship in the last two videos, or in this one, it will likely end up in one of those. But if not, let me know in the comments below. As always, note this is a general overview, and as it is a game in development, the stats listed here will likely change between the making of this video and their release, which means I will probably go over this again in the future as information is revealed. I've also covered many of these ships before in standalone videos, which
Yeah,
I'll
I've seen
link
a few
when
of them.
talking about said ship for those interested in learning more. Let's start with the bombers of the UEE, the often overlooked but invaluable part of UEE naval doctrine.
I think one of them is the
With
Heartseeker
that
of the
in
Hornet.
mind, we have to start with one of the most successful ships in the history of humanity, the Boeing B-52 Stratofortress. Okay, that's a joke. One I hope CIG actually adds into the universe at some point. But the Aegis Dynamics Retaliator is actually comparable to the B-52 in that they are both insanely
Retaliator.
old, likely not getting put out of service anytime soon, and are invaluable and flexible strategic bombers. Built during the height of the First Tavaran War in 2944, the Retaliator was a quantum jump in ship design. The previous generation of bombers, nicknamed
Whoa, look at that
Raken,
thing.
was famously hated by its operators. Lieutenant Commander Warden Fleeler famously said, "The Raken flies like a tug, got no give on the sides. Sure, it can carry bulk to cause a lot of hurt, but that doesn't matter if you get clipped before the drop." Its flaws were ruthlessly exploited by the more nimble and better protected Tavaran Talon, who became the bane of every Raken crew during the early days of the war. The military needed a replacement for the ship that could deploy faster than a capital ship, could access a wider variety of jump points, and could still deliver payloads of near equal size and devastation. So, when the young Aegis Dynamics was given the contract for this ship, they tasked the now legendary ship designer, Aaron Tracy, to come up with a plan. Famously, Tracy started the design brief of the ship that would become the Retaliator by saying, "We need a ship to stalk and damage heavy prey." To do that, they took a radical first step to interview Raken crews to find out.
So just stopping right there. I don't know if I saw a standalone video of the Retaliator or by morphologists or anything like that, but for some reason the name does sound kind of familiar. but it just doesn't like pop into my mind. Maybe I've heard it somewhere in like another video, but I guess I just haven't like really got into it. But okay, so far the design of this ship and the purpose of the ship is to like hurt and damage big capital ships.
Out what they wanted from the next generation bomber. Combining that with the needs of the Navy, they created a revolution in not only bombers, but human-designed ships. This pilot-centered approach allowed for the ship to be flown more like a fighter than a larger ship, with a single operator at the front flying and often targeting the ship's torpedoes. Torpedoes launched by a revolutionary new rotary launch system. This rotary launcher gave the ship its first unofficial nickname of the Roto by its crews. It may even be the first small human vessel to support a Tavaran-style energy shield. The Retaliator would end up very small for a ship of its time, coming out at a length of 21 meters, a width of 53 meters, and a height of 9.5 meters. The Retaliator was an astonishing achievement given the limitations of technology at the time. Bristling with 5-man turrets on top of its complement of torpedoes, it had more firepower than most ships of its size at the time of its creation, and went on to be one of the defining ships of the First Tavaran War. While a formidable foe on its own, a fleet of Retaliators has time and again proved to be more than a match for a larger class ship. It has undergone upgrades over the years since its integration, and
Okay, so the ship is very successful. Squadron rig can take down massive capital ships or just, frigates or anything bigger than a fighter. So that's really good to hear that there is some level of success.
dozens if not hundreds of new models have also been created since its initial release. One notable example being the 2783 Retaliator made by famed designer Juliet Maupin, who would go on to create the weapons that inspired Apocalypse Arms. Continuing our look at the bombers of the UEE Navy, let's look at the UEE's premier carrier-based torpedo bomber, which started life as a scam. The Anvil Gladiator.
I do have a video about that by the TheAstroHistorian. I have it saved, but I haven't looked at it yet. And literally, it just says in the thumbnail, like, started as a scam or something like that. And the title of the video says the Anvil Gladiator. I'm still wondering why, so I will get into that video sooner or later, so I'm kind of going into this ship completely blind.
Originally named the Anvil T3A Gladiator, the ship was designed specifically for what was known as the MVT project. In 2889, a newly
Disaster
formed
icon, right there, yeah.
Craig Levine Accelerator made a highly classified presentation to
I may be
the
blocking that
Navy.
part of the
They
video,
claimed
but
to have developed a radical spacecraft-based munition that would kick off an entirely new generation of ship-guided weaponry. The promised guided bomb, the aforementioned MVT, was said to possess incredible capabilities. Not only was the missile itself nearly completely invisible to sensors, but the patented warhead could scan and, quote, skip directly through the opposing target's shields. Firing the MVT had one small caveat, though. It would require the launching bomber to maintain a specialized laser lock on the target through to detonation, meaning that it would not be particularly effective on larger spacecraft like the standard Retaliator, which required a specifically built ship, which would become known as the T3A Gladiator. The only issue is that the MVT was a lie. It was just a regular torpedo with off-the-shelf electronics that did none of what Craig Levine claimed. But by the time the UE Navy realized their mistake, they had already built the custom ship designed to fire this wonder weapon, 144 of them to be exact. So with a bunch of brand new state-of-the-art bombers built, the Navy now had to find a way to adapt them effectively to a new role. Renamed to the Anvil T8A Gladiator, the ship comes in at a length of 22.
sorry about that, guys. There was an urgent message. One of my Marines asked me, like, "Hey, did you find this piece of equipment or something like that?" And I just said, "Nah."
0.75 meters, a
Sorry about
width of
that.
21 meters, and a height of 6 meters, making it almost the same size as the F-7A Hornet, and likely made from similar parts of the already wildly popular and extensively produced fighter. The ship itself was now envisioned as a kind of two-crew mix between the Retaliator and a Hornet, that could drop unguided munitions, but also adequately protect itself during attack runs thanks to higher speed and maneuverability. While it took some time to shine, the Gladiator proved itself effective in a number of combat and support roles.
So here's the thing. The ship so far, it kind of looks familiar. I think I've seen it before, but the Gladiator name is a little unfamiliar. But I think it's this part right here. I'll use my cursor. This part right here, the turret at the top. I think I've seen it on like maybe 2 or 3 different ships at the same time. Yeah, 2 or 3 different ships of that design. And also the circular part right here, I forgot which ship it was. It had some sort of like EMP or like some sort of detecting ability. I forgot which ship it was, but it was in a commercial. I mean, I've been like watching so many Star Citizen videos, I can't even like pinpoint which one it is now. But either way, let's just continue. I don't know what else to say.
Ranging from direct strikes on both capital ships and planetary installations to sensor spoofing while weasel runs. Gladiators have conducted countless successful operations and have taken the #1 slot for the amount of gross tonnage of enemy shipping destroyed per spacecraft type. Gladiators have also adapted to serve in a number of other roles, with a variety of service conversions to the bomb bay, allowing for mounting of special mission packages like long-range snoopers and data transfer arrays. Lastly, with the bombers, let's take a look at the premier stealth bomber of the UEE Navy,
Stealth bomber.
the Aegis Dynamics Eclipse.
Oh, the Aegis Dynamics Eclipse. Oh, I gotta look into this because I mean, don't we have like actual stealth bombers that are like the exact same design like this? I remember this design in what was it? Black Ops 2. Call of Duty Black Ops 2, something similar like that. Oh, wow. And I mean, like, I don't know what it is, but the sleek design is something that always like really attracted my attention. So this one's called the Eclipse. I gotta look it up.
Project Eclipse was the brainchild of Imperator Coley. At the time, the administration felt that despite the efforts to mend ties with the Xi'an, the species' longer lives resulted in lingering hostilities towards the UEE because of humanity's actions under the previous measure regime. Imperator Coley requested bids for a classified stealth bomber to have as a cautionary defensive measure should another Cold War arise between the humans and the Xi'an. However, it seems the project never got past the planning stages, and in 2930, the UEE Navy was in need of a more advanced stealth bomber to use specifically in defensive operations against the Vanduul. Military casualties were mounting in cases of direct combat with Vanduul capital ships, and the Navy needed a ship that could strike quickly before the enemy detected their presence or soften up strategic targets in anticipation for a larger attack.
So basically a ship that has the capability of the Retaliator, able to do like a significant amount of damage before the enemy realizes that they're there.
Project Eclipse looked like to be the perfect candidate. So Aegis Dynamics was given the green light to make it a reality. Coming in at a length of 24.5 meters, a width of 24.5 meters, and a height of 5 meters, the Eclipse.
So I did watch a commercial of it. Man, I just forgot. Yeah, now I remember. It was in the desert and it flew so fast and dropped like the bombs really quickly and just got out of there. And there was like no narration, nothing.
Is an impressive package for its compact size. The aero design, massive firepower, and cutting-edge clandestine technology of the ship stood out to the UEE warplaners almost instantly. The Eclipse's advanced hull system is adaptable to environments thanks to multiple wing configurations that adjust to space or atmospheric flight. Its primary purpose is to be a mid-range stealth bomber, capable of sneaking behind enemy lines and delivering a high-damage strike. The ship is designed to approach a target silently, fire its payload, and leave. The Eclipse carries 3 size 9 torpedoes and 2 size 2 ballistic Gatling weapons. After 2 years of extensive field tests, the Aegis Eclipse went into service in 2932. Since its introduction during Operation Lighthammer, it has distinguished itself as the most advanced stealth bomber in the UEE arsenal, with over 3 dozen successful operations, mostly being used in stealth and tactical bombing operations and primarily for defensive measures performed by the UEE Navy. While there
Okay.
are other bombers in the universe of Squadron 42, like the Crusader A1 and A2 platforms,
Oh yeah, the Spirit.
strangely enough, there's no reference of them being built for the Navy. Instead, they're apparently meant for civilian and militia use, despite being the perfect analog to the famed AC-130 gunship. With bombers out of the way, let's discuss the true glory hounds of the verse.
Here we go.
The fighters. Beginning with the light fighters and working our way up.
Was it the Heartseeker?
Let's start with the cornerstone of UEE fighter design. One of the oldest ships still in use by the fleet, and one of the most useful, the Aegis Dynamics P5G Gladius.
Gladius.
This will be a brief summary of the ship.
The design looks familiar, but the name doesn't sound familiar for some reason. I mean, it looks familiar. I think I've seen a commercial of it, but I guess I haven't watched like a video that like really went into depth.
If you're interested in a more in-depth look, I did a spotlight video for it, which I will link in the top right. What we know as the P5G.
Oh, humanity's legendary spacefighter. Okay, my camera might be in the way of it, so please bear with me on this. But I did see a video with that title, but the reason I saved it is because it's pretty long, and I'm trying to find the time to get into it. So now this clarifies what that video is about. So I am definitely going to look into that.
Gladius started life as the Aegis Dynamics Wildcat, coming in at a length of 21 meters, a width of 17.5 meters, and a height of 5.5 meters. The
Is that
Wildcat
torpedo
is
at the bottom?
quite small compared to others that came before it, which allowed it to be designed with forward
253. Oh, I mean, not 53. I thought that was a 5. 2 S3 missiles, an S2 gun, an S2 turret at the front. Damn. Primary engines, power plant, 2 S1 GS charger, maneuvering thrusters. Wow.
swept wings and control surfaces to allow for atmospheric control, maneuvering thrusters to allow for both vacuum and atmospheric control, and 2 main hydrogen-burning thrusters. The true genius of the design was its adaptation of civilian-style modularity into fighter design, the first of its kind. This allowed the Wildcat to be quickly upgraded or outfitted for other missions without requiring a longer stay in the hangar for a refit. This also meant that it could incorporate the revolution in armament, cooling, power plant, and shield technology that was occurring in the post-war period. This made the ship one of the smallest ever ships to be equipped with both a quantum drive and a shield. Coming just 30 years after the end of the First Varan War in 2589, the first model of this new ship represented Aegis's integration of all the lessons now thoroughly studied from that war. Its primary role was for that of a service aboard smaller capital ships that weren't outfitted for full-scale aerospace operations, to give the ships greater scouting and strike ranges. The name Gladius was a direct result of the first Imperator, Ivor Messer. He didn't like the name Wildcat and was in the process of consolidating power, which would lead to the dictatorial Messer era, which would last hundreds of years.
So it could have been called the
One of the ways he was
Wildcat?
doing this was by linking his own rise to power to that of ancient Rome. And to that end, he wanted the ship renamed to the Gladius.
That would
He saw a
explain it.
benefit in presenting the new type of fighter as being the common, quote, sword of the people, unquote. The ship went on to prove its worth in the Second Varan War and beyond. For a time, it was also the go-to fighter to counter the Vandal threat, with pilots from the all-Gladius 36th Fighter Squadron developing techniques like the carry and leap and the weave-style maneuvers. However, the last service pack of the ship was pushed out in 2943, as the UE Navy has begun to retire the fighter for newer models as they adapt to the modern external Vandal threat, along with growing internal outlaw and rebellion threats. Still, despite its age, the ship is extensively used by military and civilian forces alike, and will be the primary ship we get to fly in Squadron 42. Let's next talk about the ship that is likely replacing the Gladius in the light fighter role in the UE Navy.
Oh, this looks
the
familiar.
Anvil Arrow.
Arrow. Oh yeah, I remember the commercial for the Anvil Arrow, and what I liked how it showed like the arrow, like the arrowhead from like a real arrow, and then it shows like a transition to the ship. What I really liked about it was its design, like how sleek it is, and just how it looks. In my opinion, I really like it.
Anvil Arrow is a light fighter that acts as a patrol and scout ship. Light and fast, but with enough armament to hold its own, it comes in at a length of 17.25 meters, a width of 12.25 meters, and a height of
the maneuverability is
4.5
amazing too.
with wings that fold up for storage, making it incredibly compact compared to the larger, wider, and taller Gladius. High angular velocity makes the Arrow more maneuverable than the Gladius, but sacrifices linear velocity. Its smaller profile and sturdy frame aids its survival, but makes it less capable in atmosphere. It also has a weapons
Pros and
package
cons.
comparable to the Gladius, but dropping one of the size 3 hardpoints and instead installing a twin size 1 turret. From the light fighters, let's move on to the only medium fighter in the UEE Navy.
The Heartseeker?
And one of the most well-regarded fighters in UEE history, the Anvil F-7A Hornet, coming in at a length of 20.
Wait, then why was it called the Heartseeker again? I forgot what it was, but it was the exact same one. But yeah, the Hornet. I did watch a commercial on it and also a video that the AstroHistorian did.
2.5 meters, a width of 22 meters, and a height of 7 meters, the Hornet was a revolution in medium fighter design. The emphasis of balance between firepower, speed, survivability, and maneuverability made the Hornet one of the best ships ever built. It found instant success inside the UEE Navy and Marines, who sung their praises from almost the moment it was released. The biggest advocate for the ship was probably one of the most famous pilots and commanders of Squadron 42, Aria Riley. Aria served in Squadron 42 for 8 years, and she was promoted to the commanding officer of Squadron 42 and its carrier.
I've served in the Marine Corps right now for 8 years.
The UES Caspian. During Aria's early tours as a combat pilot, she obsessively tested all of the ships that she was assigned, meticulously testing various loadouts and configurations to push the limits of the ship. For one reason or another, all of the ships would ultimately fail her rigorous series of tests, until she tackled the Anvil Hornet. She recalled in an interview, quote, "There wasn't a scenario or loadout that I could put the Hornet through that it couldn't find its way out of. Like the damn ship was doomed to succeed." Aria Riley's F-7A Hornet was nicknamed the Wildfire and became her mainstay ship and her default configuration.
Wow, she really likes the Hornet that
was
much.
her go-to for missions that required her to handle unknown situations in the field. The ship has gone on to continue to prove its adaptability, becoming the go-to as a multi-role carrier fighter. It even had a complete overhaul in 2944, creating the Mark II, which improves the design significantly, taking everything that the team at Anvil had learned since the original Hornet and incorporating it into an updated package. Next, let's look at the heavy fighters of the fleet, starting with one of the oldest that is still operating.
What is this?
The Anvil A4A Hurricane.
Hurricane.
While it's currently
Not familiar with the
manufactured
ship.
by Anvil Aerospace, it was the brainchild of another designer from the company that inspired the Anvil brand, that of Case Aerospace. The Devaran fleet of the Second Devaran War had undergone significant tech upgrades during their exodus, and the UEE naval forces were having a difficult time overcoming specifically the new phalanx shields. With the new and improved Talon known as the Shrike and the tandem ship known as the Jackal, amongst other innovations, all able to equip this nigh indestructible shield technology. In 2605, Navy officials called upon the Empire ship manufacturers for a solution. Though he had never worked on a combat ship before, Leonard Case knew the credits to such a lucrative contract could save his company.
By the way, guys, I'm sorry. I said it before, the ship right here, I kept on comparing it to the Mantis from Guardians of the Galaxy.
So he set about designing the solution to humanity's current problems.
I want to look at that field book. Though built for the Second Devaran War, the Hurricane saw limited action late in the conflict and the ship was subsequently decommissioned. However, following a 2871 report that showed the longer a human pilot engaged a Vandal ship, the less likely they were to survive. The ship's focused firepower design, clearly seen in the top-down view, was resurrected by the Navy. So it was out of commission for a while, but then they saw its potential again, and then basically it came back into service. Interesting.
Analyzing battle footage of naval forces engaging the Devarin led Case to the conclusion that trying to overwhelm the phalanx shields was a losing proposition. The bulk of the damage that the Navy was able to inflict occurred when a Devarin ship was caught entirely off guard. Because of this, the goal of his design would be to increase the frequency with which these opportunities would occur and maximize the damage inflicted during them. To help his ship achieve this goal, he borrowed a page from the enemy's playbook. Having observed combat footage of the Jackal, where one operator piloted the ship while the other manually rotated the shields to deflect incoming enemy fire, he thought of creating a reverse Jackal. His ship would also be manned by a team, a pilot and a turret gunner. The design he submitted to the Navy stood in sharp contrast to those submitted by industry leaders like Aegis, and it surprised many when the Navy granted a contract to the unusual contender. Case Aerospace immediately began work on what would become the A4A Hurricane. Coming in at a length of 22 meters, a width of 14.5 meters, and a height of 6 meters, the Hurricane is rather small. It is only slightly larger than the Gladius, but shorter and with similar width than the iconic light fighter, meaning it can fit in most transports for the Gladius already built. It also packs an impressive amount of firepower, with the pilot having 2 size 4 weapons and 8 size 2 missiles, while the turret gunner has access to 4 size 4s, typically ballistics. This setup has made the Hurricane one of the most brutal ships in the UEE, able to tackle all but capital ship shields with ease. Launched in late 2607, the Hurricane suffered some setbacks during the testing phase, though pilots liked the power-to-weight ratio and the extra punch the quad turret offered. The high degree of coordination needed between the pilot and gunner had a very steep learning curve. Because of this, the Hurricane didn't enter active combat until 2609. While they were used to devastating effect in a few instrumental actions, the war ended shortly after their deployment in 2610, thanks to the actions of Squadron 42 at the Battle of Centauri.
So they were able to inflict damage, but however, it was kind of short-lived because the war pretty much ended. But I mean, still, it was, I guess it's noticeable even because the ship is still being used by the Navy.
While it served with the UE Navy for some time after the war, it was eventually retired after Case died in a mid-flight collision. Though Case's work would eventually go on to influence the founder of Anvil, one Jude Harris Arnold, it wasn't until the late 29th century, with a resurgent Van Duel threat, that the Hurricane would be brought back into active duty by Anvil.
Oh, okay. So that description that I read earlier in the field book by for the Hurricane, so now he's just going over that.
Upgraded for the realities of modern warfare. Next, let's look at another major Anvil heavy hitter, the latest generation of modern UEE Navy fighters, the Anvil Aerospace F-8A Lightning. With the age of the F-7A beginning to show, and the Van Duel learning how to counter the legendary ship with their own upgraded and new designs, the Navy decided it was time to replace the aging Hornet. Thus, they created the Next Generation Starfighter project, and allowed companies from all over the UEE to submit their ships. Anvil, Aegis, and RSI all made their own bids. Aegis produced their Dogfighter 3000, which may likely have evolved into what we know today as the Sabre, and RSI produced their Black Widow, which
look at that
modified
thing
into becoming the Scorpius platform.
I love
However,
the look of the Scorpius.
The winner of this was Anvil, with what would become known as the F-8A Lightning Heavy Fighter. The Lightning was the result of over a century of study on the Van Duel way of war, and represents the most modern attempt at not just a space superiority fighter, but a specialized Van Duel killer. Coming in at 26 meters long, 24 meters wide, and 8 meters tall, it is only slightly larger than the Hornet. However, its triple thruster configuration and thruster placement make it more responsive than the older Hornet. Its sloping armor, 4 size 1 shields, 4 size 3 and 2 size 4 weapon hardpoints makes it able to take as much of a beating as it throws back. The F-8 Lightning began rolling
that's
out
a good
in
balance.
1933, slowly replacing older ship squadrons all over the Empire, to much acclaim. While the ship hasn't even today fully replaced the older squadrons of ships, it has begun to prove itself as dangerous as the legendary Hornets and Gladiuses that it's replacing. Lastly, let's take a look at one of the most adaptable fighter platforms of the fleet.
Oh, what is this?
The beloved Aegis Dynamics A3G Vanguard.
Vanguard.
Built as part of the second wave of Aegis Dynamics.
I don't think I've looked into this ship, the Vanguard. Or maybe it just slipped my mind. But, I mean, I'm really thinking, but this does not sound familiar, so I guess this ship is really new to me then.
Started by the infamous CEO Hannah Chan, the Vanguard was the Navy's first attempt at a dedicated anti-Vanduul fighter platform. Coming in at a length of 48 meters, a width of 40 meters, and a height of 9.5 meters, the A3G Vanguard is a rather sizable ship. It serves as a multi-function deep space fighter. Trading some of the maneuverability you'd get from medium and light fighters, the Vanguard more than makes up for it with its operational range, defensive systems, and weapons packages. Over the years, it has become the go-to ship for intercept engagements in outlying areas where support from a carrier is not available. While all Vanguard classes come standard with 4 unique size 2 mounts and a size 5 mount on the nose, 4 size 4 missile racks, and a manned turret with 2 size 2 weapon mounts, the secret to its success is its modularity.
Damn,
The Vanguard has a unique
has a lot of
swappable
firepower.
modular room that can alter the ship's role and make it more focused for specific missions. There are 4 variations of the Vanguard, which have their own battlefield upgrade kits, or bucks, and have their own production models: the Warden, Harbinger, Sentinel, and Hoplite.
Yeah,
The
they're
Vanguard
not
Warden
familiar
is
to
the
me.
standard configuration of the ship. It is a pure, long-range, heavy fighter, built for patrols deep into hostile space with little to no support. Its modular room is
So this thing is built to be alone. Hey, if a ship is strong enough to like patrol on its own, and you know it will come back alive, then this thing is a tank.
fitted with sleeping berths and reclamation facilities to support long-range missions that can last for days or weeks.
Oh, okay.
The
So
Vanguard
this is kind of like an
Harbinger
exploration
is
ship too.
UEE's standard fighter bomber, converting the standard Warden's model into a potent bomb bay, carrying 3 size 5 torpedoes. The extended range of the Vanguard and its relatively small profile mean it can go where carrier-based or larger strategic bombers don't, and then strike hard and make it back to frontier bases. The Vanguard Sentinel is an electronic warfare ship that's designed to fight smart instead of taking enemies head-on. The conversion features an AR cockpit, an external E-warfare pod, decoy missiles, and a set of EMP charges. Vanguard Sentinels often provide necessary combat support for combined operations. A lone Sentinel assigned Wild Weasel tasks is frequently paired with Harbinger bombers and Warden escorts for large attack missions. The Vanguard Hoplite is a cross between a Vanguard deep space fighter and a dedicated boarding ship. Adapting the reliable base design for combined operations, the Hoplite is designed to insert an armored strike team of up to 6 personnel into its target location and provide it with fire support until extraction. While the Navy uses the A3G extensively, it's found its main role with the UEE Marines, who love the adaptability of the space frame, allowing them to field 4 different roles with just a single ship chassis, reducing operations costs while also allowing them deep strike support in the theaters they most often operate from, those places cut off from support and a long way from the front lines. Those were the fighters and bombers of the UEE Navy that we know of. These ships are often the most visible to the wider public, as they're often tasked with escort duty, or they are the primary defense of many systems far from the core systems and Vanduul front. The pilots and crew of these ships number as some of the most recognizable names in the Empire for a good reason. Truly, the fighters and bombers of the Navy have earned their reputation through blood, sweat, and tears of their combined effort to protect humanity against all threats from without and within. I'd like to thank you for watching.
I think I should watch the Squadron 42
think about liking
gameplay again.
Subscribing for more content, and hitting the bell icon to be notified when these release. These take a long time to research and edit, so hitting that like button goes a long way to promoting it to other like-minded lovers of Star Citizen and lore in general. This is where I tell you that while these ships I listed here are in fact the fighters and bombers of the Navy, they may not be the only ones. There are other references to ships like the Aegis Saber and RSI Scorpius as possibly being used by the UEE Navy. There are other ships like the N6G Avenger, which are no longer active duty ships with the Navy, having been replaced by the F-7A Hornet, but have references of still being in use as training space frames for new recruits. So don't take this list as an exhaustive and comprehensive at this moment. As I said,
just what he knows at the moment.
I'll update the video. Stay tuned for the final video in this series where I'll talk about the various other support and miscellaneous ships of the fleet, like the Argo MPUV, Drake Vulture, and more.
All I know is the Drake Vulture from what he just said.
To compile it into a single video called The Ships of the UEE Navy or something like that. I'm also thinking of putting together a video on the squadrons of the UEE Navy, so let me know if you're interested in learning more about that in the comments below.
I'd be interested.
I'd also like to thank those on the screen now for supporting the channel financially. If you want to throw in a few credits, think about becoming a member on YouTube. And if you want a bit more for your contribution, join the Patreon. Patreons get early ad-free access to all videos, including early access to my long-running complete history of Star Citizen lore series. Check those out now in the top right if you want to know what you're getting. Thanks again for watching, and remember, ex Historia ad Astra.
Great video as always. So that was the fighters and bombers of the UEE Navy. So I learned a lot in this one. Some of the ships are very recognizable because, like I said, I reacted to the commercials of it, or I did watch some lore videos by the TheAstroHistorian that covered those ships. But some of them are just like, recognizable, or I just remember hearing their name somewhere. And some of them I really don't know. So this was very informative and I really enjoyed it. But now he's making me want to watch Humanity's Legendary Starfighter because that was one of them. And also I really want to get into the Eclipse more, the stealth bomber, because I really like the design of it and I really want to see what its full capabilities are. But anyways, those are the fighters and bombers of the UEE Navy. Please put that in the comments below. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Which one is your favorite fighter or bomber of the UEE Navy? I really like to hear your guys' reasons and just see like what your opinions are. But anyways, this was a great video. Again, shout out and credit goes to the TheAstroHistorian again for doing a great job. And that's all I got for today, guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. And also shout out to all my members, subscribers, viewers. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your support, guys. I really do appreciate it. So without anything else, see you guys next time.